Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Potomac and Chesapeake Association for College Admission Counseling College Fair. We're really excited to have you participating in this event today. We've got some fantastic schools presenting later on today, and we really hope that you can check that out. But before you do, we've got a great panel about the introduction to the college search and timeline. Now, my name is Andy, and I'm going to be your facilitator tonight, and I have just a couple of housekeeping items before we go ahead and start with that panel. First of all, your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists will not be able to see or hear you. However, you can use the Q&A button on your screen to type your questions to our presenters at any time. Now, this is just one of many different sessions happening, so be sure to check out the schedule on the website, and you can hear from a variety of different colleges later on. And then lastly, this presentation is being recorded, and that recording will be available at strivescan.com/PCACAC. And now I'd like to go ahead and turn things over to our presenters, starting with Anne-Marie.
Oh, thank you, Andy. I appreciate that very much. My name is Anne-Marie Strauss, and I am the Director of College Counseling at the Bryn Mawr School, which is a girls' school in Baltimore, Maryland. And I'm also the president-elect of the Potomac and Chesapeake Association for College Admissions Counseling. And we welcome you to the StriveScan virtual fair today. We thank you for participating. And we have about 45 minutes to talk with you today about the college search process and timeline and applications. And we're going to explore how do you find fit, and also talk to you about campus experiences and visiting. So we're going to leave about 10 minutes towards the end of this presentation for question and answer. So as you are listening to our presenters today, if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and we will answer them at the end. So as we get started here, I'm going to introduce to you our two presenters that we have with us this afternoon. We have Chris Gothard, who is an admissions counselor at James Madison University. James Madison is a medium-sized public research university in the state of Virginia, in Harrisonburg, Virginia, down in the Shenandoah Valley. Thanks, Chris, for joining us today. And we also have Melissa Hippolyte, who is a director at the College Bound Foundation. She's based here in Baltimore, Maryland. And College Bound is a community-based organization that has counselors in public schools in the city of Baltimore, and they help with college counseling around the city. So thank you so much, Melissa, for being here with us today. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and share the slide presentation with you, and we will get started.
Awesome.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so we just went through the presentation overview, and we're going to go ahead and get started. And Melissa's going to start us with freshman year of high school.
Okay, thank you, Anne-Marie. As Anne-Marie stated, I do college access. I've been doing so for about 10, 15-ish years. Congratulations for those of you who are on the call today and you're looking forward to college, and now you want to know what you can do to be best prepared for when you do start your college application process. So we're going to start at the beginning, your freshman year, going to your senior year and beyond. Some of this information would be things that you've done already, and some may be things that you're planning on doing. So if we go back one slide to freshman year. Okay, it's never too early to start your planning, right? So your freshman year, you just left the 8th grade and now you are in high school. Please know that your grades still matter. You want to start exploring clubs and different organizations that you feel like you might be interested in. This is a good time to look around at different things that are available to you. You want to take classes and subjects that you think you may have fun at. Again, this is a time for you to explore different classes and different things that you think may be interesting and things that you feel like you might be, you may find fun. You want to study hard and get excellent grades. I say that because I remember working in the high school directly, And a lot of students, when they leave 8th grade and they start high school, they're like, oh, I'm in high school now. And they don't take things as seriously as they should have before. Those grades, your 9th grade year, they really do matter because they go into what's called your cumulative GPA. And that's the GPA that colleges look at. So you still want to study hard when you become a high school freshman and get excellent grades, because those all tie together for the grades that colleges are looking for. You want to take classes that challenge yourself. You know how you feel with the classes that you're taking, so definitely take a chance to look at the grades that are offered, speak to your school counselor, and take classes that are a little bit challenging for you. So freshman year is done, right? You started doing all of those things that we talked about. You challenged yourself, you took classes that seemed like they may be fun, and you got through freshman year pretty well, and you're off to your sophomore year. So let's take a look at what sophomore year is going to look like. In addition to what you did during your first year, you want to explore your resources. So the person at your school who should be your friend is definitely your school counselor. You're going to sit with them and they're going to help you select classes that may be helpful for you. But outside of classes, you're also going to want to look at all the resources available to you at your school. You're going to have different clubs and organizations. So this brings me into the topic of extracurricular activities, right? We have noted on this bullet quality over quantity. What does that mean? It means that you don't want to join maybe 6 clubs and just give them just a little bit of you. You want to join a club, maybe 2, maybe 3, but do your very best in it. So in addition to being on the team, you want to find opportunities to be a leader in that team. So instead of just doing a little over a lot of clubs, you want to do a lot in a little. If you have questions about what I just said, please let us know at the end and I'll be sure to clarify it for you. Again, like you did your freshman year, you want to challenge yourself, because as you move along in high school, things are going to come to you. Some things are going to be a little harder than others, but you wouldn't know that unless you challenge yourself and take things on. And as you challenge yourself, please know that you're not doing this stuff by yourself. You have advisors at your school, you have your school counselor, you have your teacher, everybody's there. You have an awesome team surrounding you during your high school years to help you get to college. If that's your goal, they're there to support you. You also want to volunteer in your community and maybe around the school. This will be another way for you to explore different things, because what we're doing in high school, really, we're getting the fundamentals for the rest of our lives. So when you volunteer, say in your community, maybe you volunteer at the hospital or the pet shelter and things like that, you may find skills that you didn't even know that you had. So during your sophomore year, you want to, if you're starting to find volunteer opportunities or you're continuing volunteer opportunities. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you take your academics seriously, because again, if college is your goal, then they're looking at your academics. You want to establish positive relationships. Remember a couple of minutes ago, I mentioned all the people in your circle who are going to help you. These are the relationships that are going to help you throughout your high school career and into college. I still talk to some of my kids who we built relationships while they were in high school. I have students graduating this weekend and some are still texting because they're graduating next year. These are relationships that are going to help you through, especially if, like for me, I was the first in my family to go to college. So the relationships that I built in high school was helpful for me while I was in college, because I can reach back to them and say, hey, I'm having a problem with this, or what should I do if this class isn't helping very well, or I feel like the professor isn't being helpful for me and I'm having certain issues. These are things that you want to establish during high school. The relationships are very important. And with your school counselor, I'm going to say that term over and over again, that person over and over again. For the parents also, you want to know who your kid's school counselor is, because they're going to be your friend. So you want to sit with the school counselor and understand the classes that are going to be offered to you for your junior year. We're going to get into that in a second. And then you want to look at your PSAT testing, and you'll see NMSQT. So it's another form of testing that's tied to scholarships and different types of money that you're going to get for college. At this point, people often ask, when do I start applying and looking at scholarships? I always tell them yesterday. So these are different ways that you can kind of make your quote unquote portfolio. We'll talk about that for when you graduate from high school, to start looking at different funding sources. Build good study skills and maintain strong grades. Along with the study skills and the grades, we're talking time management. So if you know that you have a hard time with managing your time, this is time to get help. So that way you can get your study skills. I know I'm giving you a lot, right? So you're like, okay, I have to study, I have to volunteer, I have to do extracurriculars. It's all, you're able to do all of it with the help and the relationships that you're building. So let's move into the next slide, and it's your junior year. Remember, as we go along, we're giving you a lot of information in a short amount of time. Please jot down questions. So this way we'll be able to maybe go back in the slide and answer the questions that you have, or even expand on what we were saying. So I'm going to go with the start of junior year, and then I'm going to hand it over to Chris, and he's going to talk to you about your junior year into your senior year. So when your junior year starts, right? Your freshman year, your sophomore year, those are the 2 years that you took to kind of build a foundation of high school. And you're creating this map for this is what the college advisors are going to look at, and the college reps are going to look at when they decide if they're going to admit you or not, right? So in your junior year, you want to stay involved in the things that you tried. Remember, we talked about challenging yourself, and we talked about different opportunities that you created for yourself. So you want to stay involved in the ones that worked, and you want to add leadership roles. So if you're on the chess club, maybe you're the chess club captain. If you're on the basketball team, maybe you've practiced so much that you can make team captain, right? You want to maintain the challenging course loads and keep your good grades. We can't stress that enough. The colleges want to make sure that you're taking the classes at your school that are most challenging. So they want to see that you've challenged yourself in high school and that you were able to handle it. You want to select challenging courses for your senior year. Again, we're meeting with the person that I mentioned about 500 times already. You're going to meet with your school counselor, and you're going to look at the classes that are available to you for your senior year. Resume building. When I speak to my students about that, they're like, Ms. Hippolyte, a resume, you don't need a resume till you're looking for a job. I'm not looking for a job. Guess what? When you're in high school is your job. When you get to college is your job. I've seen amazing resumes from high school students. These resumes, these students' resumes, make my resume look like it's nothing from when I was in high school. They have volunteer opportunities. And if there were maybe clubs in your high school that you're not really interested in them, you want to create your own, you can do that too. That's an option for you. You would have to speak it over with your school counselor. And then prepare for standardized testing. We realize that some schools are test optional due to COVID, and some schools are not. So that's part of your research. You want to know if the schools you're interested in, do they require standardized tests? And if they don't, do they not require it for funding as well? Because some school says, oh, we're test optional, but they still have money for school tied into standardized testing. The only way you're really going to know that is if you do the research. I hope that was helpful. I'm going to hand it over to Chris to continue with junior year preparation.
Thanks so much, Melissa. So let's shift our focus a little bit to building our college list. What schools are we going to apply to in our senior year? So this final preparation stage is going to be looking at what schools are a good fit for me. How to identify what schools are a good fit for me, and what steps do I need to take to have everything all in order by the time that our deadlines appear in our senior year. So we really want to encourage students to attend those college search related events, whether that's a virtual college fair like you all are at tonight, whether that's an in-person high school visit from an admissions counselor at an institution you're interested in, whether that's a community-based organization putting on some sort of application boot camp, or bringing different people to the table so that you can learn more about those institutions. It's really critical that you go to those events and maximize the input, get all of the advice that these professionals have for you so that you are able to have everything ready when senior year comes around. We want to encourage you to begin researching colleges, or continue researching colleges if you're already doing that in your freshman and sophomore year. It's really important that you get a strong list. I know Melissa always talks about a strong 5, reach schools, safety schools, and everything in the middle. It's important to also be able to talk about those schools. Why is that school on your list? What does that school offer that is compelling to you? What do other schools offer that maybe puts them further down on your list? Really start getting that list together so that you have a plan that you can pursue once senior year does roll around. Identify key factors, also a very critical part of this process. And I know we'll spend a few moments on this here in just a little bit, but put your parameters in place. Do you want a big school or a small school, an urban school or a rural school? Do you want a school of 400 clubs or 900 clubs or 50 clubs? So there are a lot of variations at each institution, and it's important to figure out what those aspects that are important to you are so that you can refine your search. Start reviewing college websites. Every institution has one, and this is going to be a treasure trove of information for you to sift through. We really encourage students to take that first step, get familiar, get acquainted with the institution that you're reviewing. We really want you to learn about the academic programs, learn about the social life, learn about costs, learn about connections with faculty members, those fast facts, all of that. It's going to be very important for you to start refining that search. Again, you want to get that list and narrow it down to those schools that you plan to apply to. Also very important to talk with your family, have very honest conversations with those people in your life, whether that's a trusted adult, a mentor, your school counselor, or your parents. Talk about what their expectations are for you in your college search process. Talk about what your expectations on them are as well. You really want to be transparent so that there are no surprises when the application period rolls around. Start visiting colleges and taking tours. I know most colleges are now open again post-pandemic for some of these opportunities. So we really encourage folks to step foot on campus. And again, I'll spend some time on this here in a few moments. There are also a lot of virtual opportunities. COVID brought that for institutions that may not have had those initiatives in place before. So it's a good way to learn about schools that might not be nearby, learn about schools while keeping costs down, travel costs down. So certainly encourage you to start browsing those schools, doing information sessions, doing campus tours, whether in person or virtually. And then start a master calendar. Start a master calendar. This is something that all of the admissions professionals will tell you in one way, shape, form, or another. But we really encourage you to put all of those big deadlines on one spreadsheet or one Google Doc or something that maybe can be shared with other people in your life, like your parents, like your school counselor, so that folks can hold you accountable so that you can stay on track. Not just application deadlines, but scholarship deadlines, deadlines for yourself. When do you want to have everything ready? Even if it's a week before the application deadline, you want to lay all of that out so you have an itinerary that you can follow once that year rolls around. In your senior year, that's what we're referring to. And so Anne-Marie, if you want to go to the next slide. So in your senior year, you will start all of the actual applying, work through all of those steps, those tangible action items that you've been preparing for over the last 3 years. The first thing, and Melissa would be very happy to see this, is to talk to your school counselor, your college counselor. Definitely want to make sure that you're on the same page and you have all of the support that you need from those professionals. So we certainly encourage students and parents to meet with the counseling office so that you're able to align your visions for what this year is going to look like. You want to confirm all of those deadlines that you have on your calendar. Make sure nothing shifted over the summer. Make sure that you have all of the up-to-date information. If your list has changed, add those new schools onto your calendar. Take off the ones that you're no longer interested in. And again, not just admission deadlines, but financial aid deadlines, scholarship deadlines. You want to request your letters of recommendation. Keep in mind, people have to write these letters of recommendation. So be sure that you're giving enough notice to those folks that you're going to ask in order for them to write a well-rounded letter that really shows everything that you would bring to that university. You want to be sure that you're giving them plenty of notice so that those folks are able to get everything together for you. Research merit scholarships. Again, funding is a big part of college. Prices have gone up across all of the different types of institutions over the last few decades. And so there are a lot of great ways to bring that cost down, whether that's institutional aid, merit scholarships run through a specific institution, or whether that's through third-party scholarships or outside scholarships. That's money that you can take with you no matter where you end up attending. Certainly encourage you to start that research now or in your senior year so that you're able to have those funding options available once you do know where you'll be attending. You want to apply for financial aid. The FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, goes live on October 1st every year. They have made that process a little bit easier over the last few years. They've streamlined it just a little bit. And so they'll be looking at 2 years prior tax returns and information. You can start that process on October 1st. A lot of schools do have priority filing deadlines. So you want to be sure that you're doing this as soon as possible to meet all of the different institution dates and deadlines to maximize the amount of consideration given to you for those awards. In your spring semester, you'll want to be sure that you're keeping track of the status of all of your applications. A lot of institutions have different portals and things like that for you to stay up to date on that information. Is your application complete or incomplete? If it's incomplete, what items are they still waiting for? Do they need your high school transcript? Do they need a letter of recommendation? Do you maybe have to do an interview as a part of the process? You want to be sure that you're keeping track of what is still required and outstanding so that you're able to complete that file and move it on to the review and evaluation stage at that particular admissions office. All of the colleges communicate very heavily via email, so be sure that you are staying up to date on your email correspondences. Check that inbox regularly. There'll be important things that come there. When decisions are released, if any information is still outstanding, some schools will solicit more information from you. Maybe they have a merit scholarship that they think would be a good fit for you, but they need you to write an essay. They need an extra letter of recommendation. They'll reach out via email to collect that information. So be sure that you're staying up to date on your inbox so that you don't miss any of those correspondences. Of course, keep up the hard work. Academics, again, are totally crucial to your success in the admissions process. Senioritis is real. We see it every year. Every school has a little caveat in their admissions acceptance letter that says, contingent on successful completion of your senior year. So senioritis, don't fall off. Want to make sure that you're continuing that preparation, showing the institution that you are ready, setting that trajectory so that you'll be successful as you're moving into your freshman year in college. And then the national deposit deadline to select your institution is May 1st. So we all put out our offers of admission, give you time to review that information, your financial aid packages, and everything else. And then May 1st is the time that you have to tell us whether or not you're going to accept that offer. So I want to put that on your radar. That is, it's moved a little bit. It used to be a hard and fast rule. Now it's pretty firm in most institutions. But again, best practice is to get that decision in as quickly as you have it so that schools can begin working on what comes next. So let's talk a little bit about best fit. We've mentioned this phrase quite a bit, talked about those parameters and what they are. So let's talk about how we put that into practice. When I speak to students, I normally break it down into 3 different buckets. You have academic fit, you have social fit, and you have financial fit. So with the academic fit, does the school offer the particular majors, minors, concentrations that you're looking to pursue? Is there a pathway to the career choice that I have? Career building opportunities, how am I supported by that university in finding internships, in finding careers, finding job placements post-graduation? That's also going to be very important in your process. What are the outcomes? What is the return on investment at a particular institution? What research and internship opportunities are there that are available to the students at that school? Experiential learning is a really big part in that employment search. What practical skills do you have from your undergraduate experience that you can take and leverage for that postgraduate job? And so finding a school that offers what you're looking for with respect to experiential learning is going to be very important as well. With social fit, we can break that down into many categories or many aspects, maybe I should say, but size of the school, location, extracurricular involvement opportunities. So what opportunities are we doing in high school that we might want to continue in college? What new things do we want to try in college that maybe our high school didn't have available to us? Finding the right balance of those extracurricular involvements with the academic fit that you're looking for is going to be very important for you. Am I interested in Greek life? Am I interested in a certain level of athletics at the NCAA level, Division I, Division II, or Division III? How is all of that going to impact how comfortable I am on a campus, how happy I am on a campus is really, really important for you. And then that financial fit, cost. So every school is required by law to have a net price calculator posted on their website. And so I encourage you to take a preliminary look at that and get an idea of what is it going to cost my family for me to attend this particular institution. Now that cost isn't always precise since they're not looking at your specific tax returns quite yet until you file the FAFSA. But it is good to get that idea so that you know what schools are affordable, what schools maybe are a little bit out of reach, and also so you know what scholarships maybe you should be spending your time on to bring that school within reach for you. And then we'll move to the final slide here, which is about campus experiences. This is one of my favorite parts. Back when I was in school, I was a tour guide. Now I work with our student ambassadors at JMU. I think that there is really no substitute for setting foot on campus, and walking around, getting a flavor of what it's like to be a student at that institution. Campus tours are one of my favorite ways to do this. And so you can walk around campus with a student ambassador, ask them questions, see the campus in action, see a day in the life of a student. Really a great way to measure fit. Is this place somewhere that feels comfortable? Is this somewhere I can envision myself spending my undergraduate years? Campus events are also a great way to get an idea of what a school can afford you in terms of opportunities. A lot of institutions do open houses in the fall, so you can learn more about the specific program of study you're looking at pursuing. You can meet with faculty and staff, talk to current students, eat lunch in the dining hall, all of those fun things. And so certainly take advantage of the various events that are being presented to you. You'll certainly receive a lot of invitations via mail or via email, so keep an eye out and try and say yes to as many of them as you can, especially those schools that make your short list again, so you get that sense of comfort as you're going through the application process. Connecting with staff and students, again, another great way to really get a feel for an institution. Not just those student ambassadors, though. It is also equally important to talk to students that you just see walking around campus while you're on a tour, or while you're going towards the dining hall, or while you're just roaming around. Those students will give you the unfiltered perspective of what is it like to be here at this institution. Typically, students are very candid when they're responding to those questions. What was your first year like? Is the food here any good? What is your favorite thing about this university? What is your least favorite thing about this university? Certainly have those conversations with students and also with staff. A lot of staff are at their institution, at that job, because they love the school that they work for. And so I encourage you to reach out to those folks as well and take advantage of the great resource that they are. Some schools do offer interviews, some schools do require interviews, some schools do not permit interviews of any kind. And so it's also important for you to figure out what those schools you're looking at are expecting of you in terms of interviews, whether that's for the admissions process, whether that's for a specific scholarship opportunity, but you definitely want to be sure that you're checking off all of those items on your to-do list so that your application is considered complete, and so you're maximizing that consideration given to you for financial funding. And then another real easy way to learn about an institution is through a college's social media accounts. Every university has some sort of way to connect with them on social media, whether that's Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, or some other media. There's a great opportunity available to you to see campus at different seasons, see a day in the life of a student, and really learn more about what that experience would look like for you. So we definitely encourage you to take advantage of all of those opportunities that are available to you. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Anne Marie for our panel.
Thank you so much, both of you. That was really helpful information, a lot of information very quickly. So attendees, you might be drinking from a fire hose right now, but hopefully you took some notes. This will also presentation will also be shared with you afterwards, so you can go back and review. I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now so that I can get to the Q&A feature, and then we'll take some questions. Okay, I don't have any questions yet in the Q&A, but that's okay because I have some questions to ask you myself. So if the attendees have any questions, please do throw them in the Q&A. And until that happens, I will ask some questions, some follow-up questions to the information that you've provided to our guests today. Melissa, you talked about students. First of all, I love that you are plugging the school counselor / college counselor. So if students are on the call today, or parents and caregivers, really important to try and connect with your school counselor. I know that these are very, very busy folks, but they also really want to help. So please do reach out to them and make appointments, make a Zoom appointment, make a phone appointment, make an in-person appointment, and get to know your school counselor, because they are absolutely going to be your advocate in this process. So we do have one question in the chat. Oh, yes, excellent question. Can you talk about the importance of the application essays? And then as a second to that, what makes a good essay? So the importance of the application essay and what makes a good essay.
Okay, I'll start on the high school side and then pass it over to when it gets to the college side. So as students are working on their essay, one of the things I always told my students, this is probably starting at the end, would be to have it proofread. I always told my students, do not let anything leave this school without someone else reading it. And the essay isn't something that you want to start the day before it's due. It's something that you want to take a process, like it's a process. You want to make sure it's clear, you want to brainstorm, and you definitely want to stay on topic. I can't tell you how many students start off with, this is the reason why I want to go to college. And at the end it's, and that's why the color pink is my favorite color. You do not want to do that. You want to stay on topic. You want to make sure that your ideas are clear. And you also want to make sure that when you write the essay in high school, you get help with it, you answer the question. But when it gets to Chris wants to be excited about it. He wants to read the first line and then want to read more. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris because we started writing, we had it proofread, and now we sent it to Chris. So Chris, what are you thinking when you get that essay?
Yeah, such a great point, Melissa. It is so important that you be yourself in that essay portion of the application. If you're not funny, now is not the time to start being funny. If you haven't had a certain experience, there's no need to act like you have. We all just want to get to know you better. There are many, many components to an application, and each school has a few unique ones or a few different ones. And so it's really going to be critical that you're just presenting your best self and your true self. Someone that doesn't know you will now know you. We all have admissions committees at our institutions, and we are going out there advocating for our students. And we can only do that if we know you and feel like we know you through the application essay and through your entire application. So be genuine, be authentic. Again, answer the question, run spell check before you hit submit. One thing we see as folks on the college side, having the wrong institution in the essay. So be sure that you're sending the right essay to the right school. That's also going to be very important for you. But don't overhype the essay. Don't stress out about the essay. Just take your time with it, get feedback, solicit thoughts from those that are important to you, whether that's an English teacher, whether that's a counselor. Be yourself, and we will love it. We will love it.
Thank you both. And as a follow-up to that, would you mind talking about, so there's the personal essay, which is if a student is using what's called the Common Application, that's like the main college essay, and that college essay typically gets sent to all colleges to which the student is applying if they're using that Common Application platform. There are also additional what are called supplemental essays and or member questions that are asked by different colleges, and that is how and those are going to be specific to each college or university. So would either of you just talk a little bit about those supplemental essays or member question responses?
Yeah, certainly. Thanks for that, Anne-Marie. So as Anne-Marie said, there are a lot of different essays that are asked of you. So you have the Common App essay, which is more or less the generic version that goes out to all of the schools. Then you have those specific questions that institutions want a response to. A lot of times it is, why this school? Why do you want to apply here? Why should we admit you to this institution? And so you want to be, again, very genuine, very responsive, know the schools that you're applying to. That's why it's so important to follow those steps that we talked through earlier. If you are unfamiliar with an institution and they're asking you why this school, you're not going to have a really good, thoughtful response. And so we want you to have a healthy, deliberate, intentional response to that thought-provoking question. There are also other components to those essay parts of the application. So if you're applying via the Common App, you have the generic essay, you have those supplemental essays. There's an additional information section, which is an open-ended response. And so in there, you can share any context that might not come through in the other parts of your application. So maybe you had a death in your family in your 10th grade year, and that's why your grades dropped off a little bit. Maybe you had a late ADHD diagnosis, and that's why there was this big uptrend in your grades. You want to be sure that you're sharing all of that context surrounding your academic performance with the admissions committee so that we're able to fairly evaluate your application. And then there is a COVID impact section as well, another open-ended response that you can choose to submit to a lot of the institutions on the Common App. And that's going to be a great way to share some of those challenges that you experienced during COVID that may have had an impact on some of the different pieces in your application, whether that was the extracurricular involvement opportunities that you were able to engage in, or whether that was the academic performance. But again, understand the question, answer the question, and be specific to the school that's asking that question.
Absolutely. And I'm adding to do it in a timely manner. Nothing creates more stress than having all of those things due tomorrow. So when you start the application, pay attention to the dates, pay attention to when things are due and what is due by what date. So Chris mentioned during his section, organizing, be it a Google Doc or some type of form with deadlines. Use that when it comes to doing the main essay and the other essays that the institutions are asking for, because you're going to submit a better quality document, be it an essay, be it a personal statement, be it anything that they're asking for. It's going to be better quality if you do it within a better time window than tomorrow. Many students come and say, okay, Ms. Hippolyte, even letters of recommendation, they'll say, Ms. Hippolyte, can you write a letter of recommendation for me? Okay, when's it due? Tomorrow. I'm sorry, because at that time you may very well have 10 letters of recommendations and 10 students that you're working on, because students do come and ask for you to do things like that last minute. So definitely for anybody that's listening, please stay organized and stay on top of the deadlines and everything that's due. And if you have issues or you don't know, there's nothing wrong in asking for help.
Great, thank you so much for the explanation about supplemental essays. Another question that has come in and is, besides grades, how best should students and families figure out whether a college or university is a reach, a target, or a likely school? And we talked about that earlier. When you're building a college list, you want to build it so that it's what we call a balanced list. So a couple of reach schools, a bulk of target where, they have been admitting students who look like you academically, and then a couple of likely schools where we are, pretty darn certain that you'll be admitted and you'll have a home after high school. So the question is, sometimes counselors are using standardized testing to determine whether or not it's a reach, target, or likely. But now in the era of test optional, when many schools are test optional, what are some other ways to determine reach, target, and likely, and where a student falls in the academic profile of that school? So maybe talk a little bit, if you could, about how to look for a freshman class profile or class of 2026 profile on a college website.
Okay, I'll start on the high school side. As our students start researching, a lot of the kids in our district use Naviance. So we use that as a search tool to look at the students before them who actually got accepted to the school. And this is why, again, I'll say it, you have a good relationship with your school counselor, because they're going to look at your GPA, yes. They're going to look at test scores if that's applicable. And they're also going to look at the type of classes you take. So if you're looking to major in biology or something in STEM and your grades don't reflect that you're an awesome STEM student, you may not want to apply to a school that has a strong STEM program, or even selecting majors within colleges. That's another place that you would find that fit is very important. So a lot of times we stress to families that they shouldn't wait until their senior year to start planning, because way before you should be doing visits, and the visit and the campus life and the things that you see on campus will better help you choose your quote unquote fit. The location that Chris mentioned before will help you find your fit. So in addition to the grades, which are extremely important, because you want to make sure that the school that you're applying for, their last graduating class, the last freshman class that they accepted, the GPAs and the test scores and things should be around there. So in addition to the different things that Chris said when he mentioned fit, you should also want to look at those, your grades and different things that the school has to offer. Chris?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And most every institution publishes a class profile of what was that most recent incoming class looking like in terms of their credentials. So that might be weighted or unweighted GPAs. That might be the mid 50% of the standardized testing. It might look like the extracurricular involvements, but every school typically does have some sort of outline of this is the kind of student that got in this past year. And so we would encourage you to look that up so that you have that baseline. And again, as Melissa said, the school counselor has that historical data, has that knowledge of this type of student got admitted last year, and you're very much in line with that student's credentials. So this should be a good fit for you. Again, the admissions process changes every year, so there is some with a question mark at the end of it, but certainly using the great resource that your advising staff can offer you would be what I would suggest to you. Look at the class profile and take advantage of your counseling support.
Thank you. We've got a few more minutes here. Can you talk about demonstrated interest? What is it, and when and why should students demonstrate interest?
Yeah, that's a great question. And every school is a little bit different. So for example, I'm at James Madison. We do not track demonstrated interest or use it in any of our processes, but there are many other state schools that do. And so you want to reach out to the specific schools that you're looking at to understand what demonstrated interest means to them. And so some schools use it in their admissions process. Some schools only use it in their scholarship process. Some schools count a campus visit, but don't count attending a college fair that they were at. So there are a lot of different details that go into that calculation. So definitely reach out to the school to get an understanding of, do you use demonstrated interest? And if so, how is that measured? But certainly great that you're thinking of that question at this early stage.
Great, thank you so much. And then could you talk briefly, and this is a huge topic, but how a process for a recruited, a prospective student athlete may differ from a student who's not a recruited athlete?
Yeah, that's another great question. And again, it's school specific. So some schools offer what are called pre-reads, and that's where the admissions office will look at your credentials before you apply, make sure that you're on track, make sure that you meet the NCAA clearinghouse standards and that you're good to go. Other schools do not offer that. And so be in touch with your recruiter, whether that's on the coaching staff, whether that's in the athletic department or the admissions office. Be in touch with your recruiter to understand whether the deadlines that are for all applicants are for athletes as well, whether you're on a different timeline, and whether they offer some of those other opportunities for you to get that insight maybe ahead of applying.
Great, thank you. And we are about out of time here. So Andy, take us home.
All right, thank you so much, Anne Marie. Thanks for moderating. Also, thanks to Melissa and Chris for presenting a lot of excellent information. I also want to say thanks to all of you for joining us today. When you do close out of this session, there will be a link to a really quick 5-question survey. We'd appreciate any feedback that you can provide on today's session. Also encourage you to check back on the website for the schedule for the fair that's going on. Sign up for more sessions. There are a lot of different schools presenting today, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions in the Q&A to those admissions representatives from those schools as well. So really great opportunity tonight. And again, lastly, you'll be able to find this session's recording as well as all of the other session recordings at strivescan.com/PCACAC. Thanks again and enjoy the rest of the fair.